As you can see, what we're looking at again is another Sicilian defense. My last video was entitled How to Beat Computers, and in that we looked at a Mora Gambit, and the Mora Gambit is really an unsound gambit. In fact, the university I went to, people used to laugh and joke, and actually they said it ought to be called the moron gambit. But the fact is that the Mora Gambit itself is not a good gambit. Uh, just simply accepting it and playing the correct moves will render black a pawn up, and in many cases with an advantage. However, people have played it, and the greatest players around. I can show you games where they played it and played it well. It can be a very intimidating gambit to play. So we'll continue on, and I will show you what happened in this particular game. Once again, I don't really publish games that aren't played by very strong opponents, and you can analyze their play with machines, and what you'll find out is that black made almost no mistakes in this game up to a certain point. So, there's a lot of move order things that go on, but these are fairly standard moves for white and black. The computer prefers bishop to d3 here, and now actually gives black a slight advantage after I didn't play that. So once again, this is difficult to get much of a position out of. This is kind of a pulse information on black side, and it works pretty well. Once again, computer didn't like that, wanted me to move a rook. The bishop's out there attacking nothing, but the idea is that it's going to be able to come back and provide some support to the dark squares and negate the fact that black needs to. It's kind of a nuisance move, especially since there's very few places to put that bishop where it doesn't get in its own way. Another disadvantage of this. I can't really recommend this move f6, although a lot of players play it, and it does come up in some computer programs as being perfectly good. That's once again, computer recommended move, bishop to d6. And from here on in, we have some very solid recommended moves. Okay, and now black goes astray. What would you move here as black? Black thinks he's going to attack. He's got a bit of a problem because he has to put his king somewhere, and he's going to put it behind some kind of ungainly-looking pawns there on the king side, which he might be able to do. Might be a lot safer than castling queen side with a rook lined up with a king and queen and all that. But the thing that he has to worry about here is the fact that his king is sitting in the middle. And when a king is sitting in the middle, I feel an obligation to keep him there. Even if it matters, if it's sacrificing material, it really doesn't matter. And the thing that you should be thinking about as white here is, what happens if I played knight to d5? I know that a lot of players, don't consider that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff covering that square. But in particular, the knight on e7, even though it shields the king, is a liability there. The reason it's a liability there is after the knight goes to d5 and I recapture with the e-pawn, if you can visualize this, there is the threat of d6. And the threat of d6 forks the knight and the queen. Now, to make matters worse, the pawn on d5 is attacking the knight on c6 at that point. So think about that. If it's attacking the pawn there, there's a problem. Okay? So this is where black went wrong. And after all is said and done, black should have moved knight to g6 in this position, gotten that knight out of a forking type situation, and maybe give himself some room to move his other knight over, just get rid of it, and then start fleeing with his king. I think that's probably his only hope. Getting his knight pinned is not going to be helpful when the pawn gets to d6. So moving knight to g6 gives him some leeway here. There's also the fact that you have to worry about how compelling the capture is on d5. So let's see how the game proceeded. He gets the knight to d5, and now what's he going to do? How's he going to capture? Where's he going to go? Once again, problems. That's about the best move he can make. He has to give up a knight, otherwise he gets d6, and then matters get really serious. He gets d6 anyway, and now he gets bishop to f7, which basically wins another exchange. At this point, he's massively down a material and lost. Everything's falling apart, and now it's just a matter of good play. And in this shortened game, I was happily playing most of the best moves. Certain move I could have taken that knight. So I took the rook instead, and he resigned. So it's a very quick Mora Gambit against a fairly strong player, once again. If you look at the knight to d5 motif in the Mora Gambit, you're always looking at that. And you're looking at that in the Sicilian as well. What are the implications and the analysis of what could really happen if knight to d5 happens? In some cases, it looks like there's nothing there, and it works out to be a fantastic move. And most of the time, I'm begging to play it. So, thank you, and this was the MorraGambit 2.